Palestine. He will be here a little later today meeting with our village government, but we wanted him to hear from his constituents. We wanted him to hear from the people that have been impacted and to hear what our needs are. The needs that we still have as a community is we still need health care. If that comes through enacting the Stafford Act, a disaster declaration, I don't care if there's a law that fits it, make one that does.
And permanent relocation.
Right. That's exactly. The very least that we deserve is to have health insurance for the rest of our lives, the rest of our children's lives. The second thing we need is we still need some residents relocated. There are residents that are fine and want to stay. That's okay, but there are still some homes that are contaminated. We need help for Pennsylvania. When we talk about this happening right next to Pennsylvania, if you go to the far corner of the bar that it happened at, right behind, it's called State Line, and you could literally put your foot in Ohio and another foot in Pennsylvania. And Pennsylvania has been ignored. We need money for research, not just to find out what happened with our bodies, but for the next community that this happens in. I keep hearing 20 years from now, we're never going to prove that this cancer was due to chemical exposure. But we could prove that with the research. That's true right now. The CDC told us as a community, we've all been exposed. We all have chemicals in our body, but they don't know what to do about that. However, they can treat the cancers it causes. That is unacceptable. The time is now, and this is bigger than East Palestine. These accidents happen every single day. And that's why we formed the Chemically Impacted Communities Coalition. We have members from Love Canal, 40 years, still talking about their disaster. Bhopal, India, it's been 40 years since Bhopal. They just had the contamination removed this last December. You talk about Conyers, Georgia, not getting much press, but a biolab exploded there. Their plume sat over them for over a week. And you know what they did for them? They put a curfew in place and told them to be home by a certain time at night. Look at what's going on right now in Moss Landing in Northern California, a lithium battery plant. They're all sick and being ignored. The time is now to pay attention to the people, because we the people are fed up. Look at the people in North Carolina still living in tents, but we have money to send to other countries. When does America come back to taking care of Americans? We're fed up, and we want our government to know. We stand here today asking J.D. Vance to please hear our cries. Don't let our voices be blocked by our local government yet again. It's not just about economic recovery. We need to focus on human health. We need answers, we need out, and we need help in East Palestine. Everything is not okay here.
Many people don't realize that other communities have been erased off of the map for less contamination events than this. We have the right to be removed from a poisonous environment. We have a need for meaningful health care and realistic relocation. You can't buy or rent a home similar to what you get here in any other similar environment. We didn't ask for this to be done to us, and we have talked to many people from many other disasters. I personally talked to Marilyn Leisner from Times Beach quite a bit, and the health ramifications that her community is still facing. The people that she has lost that left that community between 7 and 13 years old, passing away in their 40s and 50s. She doesn't know how she's made it so long. She thinks it's to help us. We need out. We need relocation. I still have loved ones who are in multiple different types of relocation, all lesser than their homes here. Many are paying for 2 homes. Some are facing homelessness. There are some who are actually homeless. And our neighbors in Pennsylvania, 500 feet from the state line where that plume blew, got no attention in this at all. They got no help at all. We got no help from the government, not any. But they're not even getting acknowledged. And we need J.D. Vance to be the man of his word that we believe him to be. declare the Stafford Act, get the federal declaration of disaster out, and please come speak to your constituents. You were with us all along, and we need you to be with us now as our Vice President.
Say anything? Anybody else want to speak?
I will speak to you.
Go ahead.
I'm a resident of across the border in Beaver. I was also impacted. I'm a Lyme disease advocate. I advocate across Pennsylvania. We're one of the highest states in Lyme disease. We can see an increase in autoimmune. We can see an increase from the impact from here in our air. I'm a functional genomic practitioner. I can help with the research. I can help with the data. What we need.
A community, many communities in the surrounding area suffering, silenced. They're suffering, silenced. There's no coverage on this, and it needs to stop. We need help. Our government needs to step in and take care of their citizens.
Use the power that they have.
Yes.
And
A
not
swipe
having
of a
health
pen
care.
could change
How
our
many
lives
people
forever.
worry about your health care?
We're definitely
Just about
worried about
everyone.
health care. Even people that have health care right now, you know, it's not covering chemical testing and the types of things we need. They put a community health center here, Governor DeWine did, in East Palestine, but guess what? They don't employ any environmental doctors. It's the same PCP care that we get, you know, across the street here, the doctors we've been going to for 30 years. Like, how can they not even give us access to doctors that understand chemical exposure, that understand what's going on with our bodies?
Isn't the funding stopped on that too? You have to use your own.
Because
Your
nobody
own
was using it,
insurance.
they turned it into just a regular primary care practice.
They wouldn't do anything.
Yeah, because they didn't do testing, they didn't have an environmental doctor, you know.
They
but-
laughed and told my mother everything she had was because of her age. They would acknowledge nothing could be potentially related. And why would you keep going back there?
But our doctors were also
But what
told
about
by
our
the
children? Are our children and grandchildren going to have a hard time getting insurance because this is a pre-existing condition?
And what about the EPA, the health department, OSHA, the
Where's
cleanup
OSHA?
workers?
Yeah.
If you
Where's FEMA?
had a business that was surrounded by chemicals, OSHA would be there immediately to shut it down. They have people living in right down by the tracks where the soil is full of contaminants from the rail train that's spilled everything, and they still have not moved those people out. They're still living there. There was in her backyard, she had a rail car, and she has young children. My question is, yes, okay, great, let us get health care for everybody, but that is to treat the symptoms. Why would you not remove the people away from the thing that causes the symptoms?
Amen.
That is the first thing
Absolutely.
you should do, is get the people away from that and then worry about their symptoms that they're going to have regardless, because they've been there for 2 years.
Absolutely. You don't bandage wounds in a fire. You remove people from the fire and then you assess their wounds. Healthcare before relocation doesn't make sense.
This
And
is-
healthcare around here, we don't have the practitioners for what we need.
This is for the workers on that site. They are excavating a super fund as we speak, a federal super fund. Why is the OSHA not there asking those workers why they don't have PPE on?
Right. Amen. They
Why?
And why are we allowed to live
OSHA.
in the fallout of
I'm
that?
telling you right now, they're in the middle of a super fund and they don't have proper PPE on. You need to go ask why. You need to go ask those workers why they don't have PPE on.
Our environment is still contaminated. Just in November, they found 14 more pockets of vinyl chloride. They found contamination in the wetlands. You know, they act like this is done. There's still contamination in our creeks. They've not addressed the creek banks. You know, we're not stupid. We don't need to be scientists to know when it rains and that creek swells, all those chemicals are going into those sidewalls, going into that soil.
Going into our homes.
And what people don't know is that vinyl chloride could stay in the soil for a long time, years. It off-gases from the water, and you breathe that in, but it stays in the soil, and it's been going deeper and deeper, and many of us have private wells, and we weren't even able to get a baseline test for our wells to see what we started with, so that we can continue to update of what's happening, because ultimately, God forbid, that's going to end up in the water, the aquifer, and that is terrifying because you won't know when you're drinking it. I've been drinking bottled water for 2 years now.
Yep.
I filter my
Getting
bottled
hard
water.
to afford.
Don't even give it to our animals.
No, don't
I
even
won't
give it
even
to
give the
my
water to
animals.
my
And I
animals.
understand
And when we talk about vapor intrusion, our municipal building right here, the mayor tells me off on national television for asking how he can make those women work in there when it was the only place that smelled worse than my home. I heard rumors that they had a pipe that led from that building down into the tunnel where the creeks run under the building that was off-gassing into that building. When I asked our local village government about it, I was told to get a public records request. It's now come out in a published report, and I also have videos of the hole that they had to cover. When your residents are complaining about vapor intrusion in your home and your own local government does not stand up for you, does not say that there was vapor intrusion right there in that very building. When your local government knew that the air knifing machines that they had lining our town were blowing chemicals and the workers were getting sick, no one told us. There was 5 of those machines at the entrance to our park. Why are we not being relocated? Why do we not have health insurance? Why have we been abandoned?
Where's the transparency? 2 years and there's still not transparency. They still can't explain the symptoms. In the fall, there was a ton of people getting sick again, and everybody says, "Oh, it couldn't be anything related to the derailment. It must be." No, they just found the pockets, and everybody was sick again.
Well, and the other problem is that the only way that anybody got any testing is from independent scientists that came to test, because they would not come and they would not have them test our soil. The only way I knew that I have vinyl chloride in my soil and in my crops is because of an independent scientist. And it's only gotten worse the second year that he tested it. It's gotten 8 times worse than it was the first year.
So are you saying that there's a cover-up here?
Yes, absolutely.
Historically, in every chemical disaster, there is a cover-up.
We're not saying there's a cover-up, we have proof. For anybody that wants to see it, if nobody fights for you, you learn how to fight for yourself.
Period.
As parents that care about their community members, we do our own investigation. I guarantee you, a group of people that investigated this, we investigated it better than the FBI would have. So we're not just saying they lied, we have proof that they lied, and I will show it to anybody that asks us for it.
About a year ago, they called us up. My family, we have 20 acres here on Jimtown Road, and we have a house. About a year ago, the lawyers called us up. Our lawyer sent us over there to sign papers and try to understand it. It's been 2 years now, and everyone I'm talking to around here with property has not been compensated. I mean, our property's worth 0. There's no value. There's no value anymore in our property. And if we try to sell it, or we do sell it, then we're liable as well. The issue, I think, is why did they give all this money to out-of-town lawyers when I understand, I don't know the percentage they're taking, but that should be revoked. That we should form a committee here of citizenry. We know better, and we can have bankers and lawyers monitor what we're doing, and let's do it fairly. I couldn't understand. This one lawyer was telling me, well, your land, we're not going to refund anything on the land. It's for the homeowners. I said, well, if you have a house, what does the house sit on? Land. Okay? This young lawyer didn't even understand this. And I said, don't they value the land and also the house? They're separate. So the land and the house goes together. When you got leadership like this, it's no wonder why after 2 years we have no compensation.
Yes.
None.
180
Everybody here
million.
has no compensation. Now I feel bad. I don't live here, but I feel bad for the people who live here. I think the town is Americana. I think that we not only need that fund to be revoked and put in the citizenry hands and managed appropriately. They do that with bank trusts. I mean, why can't we do it for our own community rather than have these lawyers come in from out of town? And until now, where's the money? I mean, that's not even to speak of the people's health. So I think the mayor, I think Vice President, I think the new government should come in here and slap these people around and get it straight.
Criminal prosecution.
Yeah.
What they did was a crime.
Yeah.
These attorneys, what they're doing to us, this settlement that looks so great, you had to sign up and opt in without even knowing how much money that you were going to get. Residents still don't know how much money they're going to get. The attorneys got 180 million. They already have their money. And what residents have to do, if you signed up with an attorney before the class action, you have to pay your contingency fee. So out of your 70,000, if you get that being in the 1 mile zone, you pay 33 to 40% to your attorney. And let's not forget our own attorneys held a virtual town hall where they had a toxicologist tell us that there would be 0 cases of cancer and 0 long-term health risks from this chemical exposure. A simple look him up on LinkedIn. He worked for Exxon. He worked for Chevron. He worked for Dow Chemicals along with a couple other polluters. How is that informed consent when people signed away their medical rights? What has been done to us is disgusting. We have no money to get out. No one is helping us get out.
Well, they're taking the relocation money back too.
Yeah, they're
taking
the relocation money out of your 70,000. So people like Chrissy that spoke, that's been relocated for almost 2 years, she'll get $0 and be forced to go back to that contaminated home. And to anybody in the community that says that people that were relocated are double dipping, let me tell you, you can only spend your settlement money on hotel rooms. We weren't given a choice. We weren't given $20,000 and told go find a place to live. My house was contaminated. I wanted to be home. You live in a hotel room with your 3-year-old, your mother-in-law, and your husband, animals for months at a time. It was no vacation. We're gonna get $0. So don't be fooled by the headlines. This is the biggest settlement in history for the attorneys, not for the people.
And the death rate here, I understand it shot up here in East Palestine?
I can't speak on that. I've not researched the death rate because I've had so many other things to research. But I will tell you, I personally have lost a couple of people to heart attacks that had no previous health conditions. Do I know it was from the derailment? No. Do I know it wasn't from the derailment? No. And that's why we need the research. That's part of it. It's the not knowing. Your kid goes missing for 20 years. I'm sorry, I'd rather know day one that they were gone than sit there for 20 years and wish.
Can you ask, why has the media in this country not spoken to the residents about the fact that they can't even get health care?
There are some media stations that have been staying on top of us, but unfortunately that's the news cycle. You know, it's the same thing with other communities helping us. We didn't get one bottle of water from our government. Trump brought water before he was back in the government. We depended on other communities. In the beginning, we had so much water, we didn't know what to do with it. 2 years later, we're still drinking bottled water. Some people are still cooking in it. You know, with the price of groceries, people are deciding between clean water and being able to feed their families. And we live in the United States of America.
And President Biden came here a year after the incident. What do you think about what he did?
What did he do?
He met with a planned audience. It was so fake. You know, it's these people here that are living this every day. They're the ones you have to speak to. And if they speak out, if any professional speaks out, he's going to be censored by the government, by the railroad. They're going to force any doctor that says, hey, maybe this. No, they're not going to listen to that. They don't want to hear that. They want everything to be fine. They want us to go away. Well, we've been here for a long time. We're not going away.
When Biden came to town, all I heard was a pledge to spend millions in NIH grants to prestigious universities to study us. I think that is that is the most ridiculous insult I could think of. Where's the people getting out of this poison? Where's the health care? You don't care about the people who just want to study us like guinea pigs? I'm sorry. This thing has gone on for way too long.
And does Norfolk Southern really control this town?
Yes.
Hell yeah,
Seems like
Norfolk
it.
Southern controls this town.
They just gave the town $60 million.
Right. Look at a $25 million park. You know, you look
we
at,
can't go
I
swimming.
asked for a
No,
list of
not
all
this
the
summer.
positions that have been created in our village government since the derailment and who is funding those positions. I don't care who you are, you can see who are getting jobs from this. You know, people in the fire department, their family members working for Norfolk Southern. You know, other family members getting jobs, you know, at the fire department. Those are the people that are speaking to our Vice President today. Not the people that you're hearing from here that are suffering. You know, I honestly believe that our local government has been very openly bought out. Not everybody believes that. You know, some people think let's get what we can get and, you know, while we can get it. And that's fine. But there's some of us that are more worried about our health. What's a $25 million park going to do if your kid has cancer and can't go over there to play?
Right. And the settlement's 22, right?
They got another 22 million, yeah. But they had to negotiate the stuff that was already promised to us from Norfolk Southern. They promised us the park. They promised us a training center. And you know what? Our city government, our village government had to negotiate to keep the park. Why are you negotiating things that were promised and things that we didn't even want?
We didn't even want them.
I recently met an elderly gentleman from Nagley, and I was really concerned about Nagley because when I evacuated on Sunday night, there was very thick haze in the air that made your lips tingle and your mouth coated, and it was hard to breathe. I met this gentleman who lives on a hill in Nagley, and that plume was at ground level with him. He couldn't see the barn, and nobody had warned him. He wasn't evacuated. He wasn't told to shelter in place, and now he's on oxygen. Before that, he could hike miles with his daughter, and he didn't have any communication with anybody. He didn't know what was going on. His daughter had to come and rescue him, and now he's suffering the health effects.
And how do you feel about the derailments? Because apparently there have been over 1,500 derailments since the derailment in East Palestine. Who's in charge?
It's out of control. It's out of control. There's so many separations every day you don't even hear about. There's so many things they could do with the Railroad Act that they stripped out of it. And I bet that's what he's going to talk about today, the Railroad Act. But it does not include shortening those trains. It does not include things. It has stupid stuff in it. Let's put it that way.
I wanted to make one point about the health care. I mean, that's wonderful if we could get that. But please know that once you get to the point where you need health care because you have some serious illness, it's too late. Because we know what cancer does to people, what the survival rate is. And especially with these chemicals, the type of cancers that it causes, it's very scary. So that's why I think it's important to get people away from the thing that causes the damage before it's too late.
And,
Already too late.
and they ignited
But we have
the.
constant exposure. We are constantly re-exposed.
So every time it rains here,
Right now.
Yeah, people get very sick, headaches. I don't know if the nosebleeds are still happening. I live a little bit away from the derailment, but my husband has done a lot of exposing what's going on in the creeks. He,
are the creeks still contaminated here?
yeah, he just left there now. He just went down to find out what's going on because he did that for about a year and a few months, and 8 months ago he started getting sick. He stopped doing it completely, but we have been doctoring now for the past several months, and it's just a cyclical thing, one thing, then another thing, and he's been healthy. We've been athletic. We eat, organic and raw foods. We take care of ourselves our entire lives, and then all of a sudden, I don't want to cry because it's been really difficult, and we try to stay, pretty positive because we want to support everybody else. But when you start to see it happening to yourself, you go, this has to stop. There are many children here that we don't know. I mean, they're tough and their immune systems are tough, but then as they get older, if that stuff starts to break down in your body, because once it's in there, it does damage. It changes the DNA or the molecular structure inside your body, and that's it. So you can do all of the detoxing and lots of things, but the main thing is to get away from the toxicity to begin with. Yeah.
Let me just make another point. I know everybody gets all these lawsuits mixed up. There's the Justice Department lawsuit, there's the class action lawsuit, there's several other ones, the DA, I guess, of Ohio. I don't see any of them really addressing what the people need. And I can't believe that more people don't go to these meetings and listen to what the officials have to say. And Jamie mentioned it once, but I'm going to mention it again. When the CDC comes to town and actually tells you, we don't know how to get the chemicals out of your body. We know you got exposed, but we do know how to treat the cancers it causes. I don't want to treat my cancer. I don't want to get cancer in the first place. It's no fun being treated for cancer. They didn't say they could fix you and cure you. They know how to treat it, not cure it.
The CDC came in and got sick and left. But this woman would like to tell you something too.
Since this train derailment, that very first season, our kids, our goats, we lost 6 kids. And I have found aborted goat fetus in my pasture. And I have not had, even this year, we had 3 kids. One died right at birth. Our second doe, she had 2 kids. She died shortly after birth. The first little kid died, and about 3 months later, the second kid died. We have not had surviving goat kids since this train derailment, and we lost 1 cow.
There was also just a lawsuit about a dog kennel, several kennels that have lost like 112 or 116 puppies, and a lot of them have been born with deformities, and the ones that did survive all have issues with their liver enzymes. And animals are a precursor to human health. Because they age faster, you see these types of illnesses in animals before you start seeing it in humans.
I just wanted to say something. I want to represent the people from Negley. I know the train blew up in East Palestine, but everybody around here got it. They have been tearing houses down up here and dragging them to the dump in Negley. Now what's that going to happen? Our groundwater is already bad because of the dump. I know that there's a Clean Water Act that we are supposed to be promised clean water. We cannot use our well water. We have to buy bottled water. And we are no different down there than what's going on up here. Because the night that they blew the train up, I worked at Walmart out in Chippewa. I went down Cannleton Road. The smoke was so bad down Cannleton Road, you couldn't even hardly see the road. And the cloud come right over top of the hill, right to our house. And I understand that the train blew up here, but it went everywhere when that thing blew. It went everywhere. And now we're just, you're just a bunch of hoe handles that don't know how to read, and you don't understand none of this stuff. I understand that I can't use my water, and I understand that I don't know what they put in the ground behind my house.
So you're saying that they're doing excavation of that material. Is there any oversight of the excavation?
I called the EPA. They told me, you don't have to worry about it. There's nothing wrong. I said, the house was right over here. I followed them from the dump right over here behind on the corner. I called him the same day. The guy from Chicago called me. You don't have to worry about nothing. Nothing's in there. I said, there has to be something in here. It was up here the whole time. There has to be something in there. Yes, I followed the dump truck. Our water has 2 different chemicals in it. You can take a bath in it if you take a cold bath. You can wash your dishes if you use cold water. It's got some form of turpentine or something in it, but yet they tell us, you'll be okay, it's not going to affect you for 20 years. So our wells, all of our wells down there are shot because of what they've done. And now, I don't know what they're putting in the ground. There's still dump trucks coming from here down to there. And this has been over a year ago. It was on Martin Luther King Day of 2023. And I called them immediately, and they told me, don't worry about it, it's not going to affect you. How do I know?
Anyone else who would like to speak?
I believe I'm going to die soon. I have over 150 nodules on my lungs already, and I'm losing oxygen to my heart. I'm 53 years old. This should not be happening. I was 132 feet from that track when it came by our house and blew all that smoke into our house. We were 132 feet from the track, and it was already on fire coming by, and it filled our house in like 2 seconds. Our 2 dogs died within a month. They were out there, I was trying to get them, but I couldn't see them through all the black smoke. Yes, I breathed it. I breathed it for over 6 days. Well, I'm done breathing it, and I'm done with them screwing us too, because they're taking the money that they gave us for relocation out of our check. I don't think that's fair. You made us relocate. You made us do this. You wrecked your trains. Sorry. Barbara Carr. C-A-R-R.
So you live here in East Palestine?
Yes, I do. I lived at 253 West Taggart Street.
I'm Jeff Lauderbeck from the Epic Time.
We actually, from the crash scene, 1.1, but the train came by our house and it just completely filled our house. I tried to put fans in the door. It was in our house for at least 6 days, and you can still smell it.
Is the government doing anything to protect you?
No. And what about it is we had to get rid of all of our belongings. Who wants to sleep on that or smell that blanket? Okay, we've lost everything, and we need some help. I'm asking J.D. Vance and Trump to come help East Palestine. And thank you.
You're saying you're losing oxygen?
I'm losing oxygen to my heart. I am now on nitroglycerin.
And you didn't have that issue before?
I had no heart issue other than congestive heart failure, but I've had that for years. But the nodules, I started getting them, and I got proof. I got my medical records at my house. I was 7 days before I started getting them on my lungs.
And what is your age?
53 years old.
And,
Yes.
and what do you want Vance to do here?
I want them to make them responsible and make them pay to help us get back on our feet. They're taking all of our money. They're taking the money that they relocated out of our check. I don't think that's fair. It's not fair.
It's important that you guys know she has nodules. She doesn't have cancer,
No cancer
but
yet.
thoracic surgeons will tell you you can catch nodules before they turn to cancer with the funds, the medical care that this communities need. By the federal government, they need it. Okay, so she could catch it early. If you catch those nodules when they first turn, you have a very high survival rate.
And now I don't.
But
now I don't.
You have the other problems. But if you just have a nodule turn and you catch it and they get that out of there, the survival rate is higher. Okay,
You think the
they
government-
need the medical
Do
care.
you think the government is protecting Norfolk Southern?
I think somebody is covering something up. I don't know who. I know that I haven't seen our chief or nobody that probably already got paid off. I don't know what happened here, but I know that they're not helping the people. We're still not receiving these little checks that they're going to take 14 grand out that they gave me to use for a hotel. You know, what am I going to get? 11,000? If that, if they give me that, it's not fair. They signed us up for 25 grand, and we deserve it. Plus the 70 grand per family. We seen the paperwork. It came in the mail.
Is that going to cover health care?
No, that's so we don't sue them anymore for health care from this issue on. Do you understand? That's why we had to sign their papers, or we get nothing. So I went with my lawyer and I signed the papers.
Are you hopeful with the administration coming in that they'll be different as far as
I think he was here, and he came a couple days after the derailment, okay? He came for us, okay? And I think he will come back for us because we did not deserve this. We did not do anything. It's the Norfolk Southern, and they paid us out of an insurance. They didn't even have to come out of pocket.
$600 million.
Yeah, you know, they give us 600 million, but the people, the 4,900 living in Palestine should have got at least 1 million apiece. That's the truth. I'm so sorry.
What would you like to see as
I'd like them to counteract the judgment and help the people here, because they've lost everything. Their houses, most of them, half of them are empty. They ain't even living in them. You know, I moved a little farther away, but I hear the train every night going by, probably 70, 80 miles an hour.
And for people that have kids here.
Right. What about the children? What about the kids? What's going to happen when they start having babies?
Can you talk about that?
Thank you guys very much for listening. I got to go. The water company ain't open.
I just can't even fathom what my children. I don't even like to say it out loud because it scares me that much. It keeps me awake at night to think about what might happen to my kids when they go to start having kids. Like she just said, you know, I have a little boy and a little girl, and we live right up the street, right here. You know, we saw the fireball. We were here, and because they were sort of secretive about what was actually going on, we were here until Sunday. We didn't even relocate until Sunday, so we were here from Friday until Sunday with all of those chemicals. And I live pretty close. I mean, I live a quarter mile away from it.
So the EPA never came here and told people get out.
They never came to my house.
Because it's a highly dangerous toxic cloud.
Nobody came to my house. Nobody came to my house.
So you heard from Governor DeWine when that's when you heard about the
Yeah,
evacuation?
yeah.
And how do you spell your name?
Morgan, Morgan, Parker, Parker.
And you're from East Palestine?
Yeah, yeah.
How has it changed the town as far as like February 3rd in the morning?
Well, it has it's completely divided us, that's for sure.
How is it divided?
Well, because there are those that, you know, they don't understand, you know,
They just want to move on.
Yeah, and that too, you know. It blows my mind, to be honest with you, the people that think that everything is okay here. I don't understand that. I don't understand. And maybe that's their way of coping. You know, maybe that's their way of dealing with this. But I mean, what about my babies? What about my kids? What about my animals?
How old are your kids?
My son's 12 and my daughter's 14.
And you have how many animals?
I have 2 dogs and 2 cats. And, you know, I mean, we can never say for sure right now in this very moment if something was because of the derailment or if it was not because of the derailment. But, you know, I know that when my dog eats the ground, he throws up every single time. Every single time. You know, so I don't know anything for sure. I just, you know, I don't know.
What would you like to see happen from the Trump administration?
I would like to see the declaration of the disaster. I would like to see us have health care and relocation. You know, relocation. My mom worked her whole entire life like a man in a steel mill to own the duplex that we live in so that she could leave it to me and my sister so that we would always have each other. And that is like dead because it is so contaminated. And my sister doesn't even live with me anymore, you know, and she was my biggest support with my kids because of this derailment. You know, it separated us. Yeah, she's in Pennsylvania now. But like that's where the chemicals went, you know what I mean? Like, and we didn't know that. So like we ran from this disaster right into Pennsylvania, right where all of the smoke was coming, you know what I mean? So it's like, did it even really, you know, I don't know, like, it just feels like, I don't know, it just feels like we have been abandoned, like everybody else has
So
said.
you would like to see Norfolk Southern pay for the fair market value before?
Yeah,
the
I would
crash?
like to see that, and I would like to see them be held legally accountable as well. You know, this is actually insane. Like, it's actually insane that this is happening. Like Jamie said, in America, like, it's mind-blowing. You know.
What would you like to see happen for the people who want to stay here?
I pray for them. I pray that, you know, nothing happens to them. I pray that they don't get sick, truly, because these are forever chemicals. These are forever chemicals. Like, so how could it not You know what I mean? Like 1 + 1 is 2 here, people. You know, so I don't know. God bless you, I guess, is really all I can say. Thank you.
If I get a picture.
And what is your name? Sharon.
How do you spell it?
We'll leave it there. Sharon. S-H-R-O-N.
And you live in?
We're in East Palestine on the second anniversary of this catastrophe with Norfolk Southern, and I'm with
Sarah Zarling. I'm a rail safety advocate with Citizens Acting for Rail Safety in Watertown, Wisconsin. I'm here in support of the citizens of East Palestine and everybody who's been affected by this derailment.
And I understand there have been over 1,500 derailments since East Palestine. What does that tell you about the danger to communities all over the United States with railroads and toxins and the danger of another East Palestine taking place?
Right. You'll have to forgive me for not knowing that exact figure. I do know that there are a lot of derailments. There are derailments that happen every day, even from, relatively minor ones, but there are still a lot happening every day. The biggest point is that yes, rail safety has not been a priority in this country. This is actually the 10th anniversary of when I became a rail safety advocate. In February of 2015, I saw an oil train go by my home. I went home and I researched what that was. I learned about the town in Quebec, Lac-Mégantic, where 47 people were incinerated off the face of the planet, along with a big chunk of their town. And so that's all it took for me to know that that was unacceptable. And so that's when I became a rail safety advocate, and nothing has changed in the 10 years that I've been doing this work. There's been no rail safety legislation that has been passed, not since 2015 was the Crude by Rail Safety Act. Nothing ever happened with that, and then J.D. Vance actually helped to draft the Railway Safety Act of 2023, which nothing has come from that as well. So the people of East Palestine, they want to make sure that their voices are heard with J.D. Vance today, because it's very important that they know that he's here for the people and not just as PR to come and meet with elected officials and selected business owners, that he's really here for the people to make sure that justice is finally done, which honestly there can be no justice that can ever be done for the people of East Palestine. That ship has already sailed, because the justice that would have happened for them, besides the train never derailing in the first place, which the train would not have derailed had we had better rail safety legislation in place. But since the moment the train went off the tracks, and this is the thing, since the moment the train went off the tracks, the people should have been compensated for everything that has happened to them since that moment. They should have been relocated if that's what they wanted. They should have been taken care of. They should not have been told it was safe to come to their homes. We shouldn't even be having these discussions. The government has not taken care of the people of East Palestine. This has happened in our country, in the United States of America, where there is a rail line, where actually there are 2 rail lines that run through this community, and if you are a community that has a rail line running through it, and especially if it carries hazardous materials, then this could be you. The government will forget about you and will screw you the same that they have with East Palestine if this happens to you, which it likely will if there's still nothing done with rail safety legislation.
Does Norfolk Southern and these companies run this city and run the country? Because it seems like they're above the law. They're not being held criminally liable. I mean, it seems like getting away with more derailments.
Right. Well, the problem is because the rail lines aren't, they're not nationalized, they're privatized. So that means the rail companies can make their own rules, and they do. They even have their own rail police. So even in your own town, you can't go where the rail company owns the land, because that's considered trespassing. So if you have a rail line that's owned by Canadian Pacific, then a Canadian company owns part of your town.
And do you think Norfolk Southern should be held accountable criminally?
Well, of course I do. I think that anybody who has told the people of East Palestine that it's safe to go home. I think that anybody who has told the people of East Palestine that it's over, I think anyone who has helped to put them in harm's way should be held criminally liable, yes.
And the ideology of Trump and Vance is deregulation. The companies should regulate themselves. Where does that lead with deregulation, complete deregulation? The NTSB apparently covered up what happened. You heard from Jeff Kurtz yesterday.
Right.
What were the lessons of Jeff Kurtz's presentation about the NTSB?
Well, it's always wonderful to hear the rail workers themselves speak because nobody knows what this work is like, obviously, more than them. And there are a lot of dangers that go along with their jobs, too, that many people don't know. And, trains are fascinating and they're magical to many people. But the way that it's become with them transporting hazardous materials and the way that rail companies completely, their rail workers are basically slaves. They're just overexhausted, they're overworked, they're underpaid, they're underappreciated, and they're put in incredibly dangerous situations every single day. And then the worst thing is that whenever accidents happen, well, not accidents, I don't want to say that because it's not an accident, but whenever these disasters happen, like in Lochmagantic, the rail workers are just following the company policies and the regulations that are in place, which are inadequate. Rail companies often, they skirt safety rules so they can save money. And so then when the rail workers follow the company policies and then the bad thing happens, then the companies try and hang it on the rail workers and make them be liable for what happened when it's actually the ones who make the rules should be in trouble.
That never happens.
No, of course not. But that's why the people need to keep speaking up and being loud and not just rolling over and allowing this stuff to happen, because that's a lot of why it continues to happen, because enough people aren't standing up and saying enough is enough. So that's why I'm here, to try and raise any kind of awareness that I can about what's happened in East Palestine. And the people of East Palestine also need to know that the people of Lochmagantic support you as well. I got a wonderful message this morning from Robert Bellafleur, who is one of the front-running people, like Jamie here. He's been leading the coalition in Lochmagantic for the past now almost 12 years.
They were criminally prosecuted for an accident that was caused because the rail companies allowed a train to be parked on a hill without proper protection.
That's correct. And I met Richard Labrie when I was in Lochmagantic, and he's a really wonderful man, and we had an absolutely fantastic exchange. And, that situation has left those people absolutely traumatized, like Thomas Harding, who was, kind of at the forefront of that whole thing. I'm getting like chills right now when I think about how awful it has been for him when he was just trying to do his job. There's just so much about all of these situations that's just so important for people to know, but they don't. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.